The history of Indian independence struggle will remain incomplete if we are not remembering the Royal Indian Naval Mutiny. RIN mutiny can be described as the one of the final and the fatal blow on the British imperialism. Here, let me explain about some of the aspects of this Royal Indian Naval Mutiny. On this date, back in 1940s, to be precise, in February 1946, in the city of Bombay, which was regarded as the heart of colonial India, there was a sudden uproar of the sailors of the Royal Indian Navy. Driven by the grievances and inspired by the fervor of independence, a rebellion led by the sailors, by the Navy cadets, erupted over the city of Bombay, which was wholeheartedly supported by the working class, the peasants, the students, and obviously the communists of this country. The seeds of the discontent for this mutiny arise from the discriminatory treatment against the Indians who served in the various departments of the British Indian Navy. The Royal Indian Navy was once considered as the fort of or a symbol of maritime strength, and it was regarded as one of the strongest force in the Indian Ocean. How can we describe the RIN mutiny of 1946? Well, I would say it was the final and the fatal blow on the British imperialism. What is the history of RIN mutiny? In February 1946, Bombay, heart of colonial India, stands on the brink of a monumental upheaval. The sailors of the Royal Indian Navy, driven by the grievances and inspired by the fervor of independence, were on the cusp of a rebellion. As the tensions rise, formidable ally emerges. It was the students led by All India Students Federation. Here I am to take you back to 1946 February when the British witnessed one of the most tremendous defeat they experienced in the Indian Ocean. Well, it was the Royal Indian Navy mutiny. On February 18, 1946, the resentments in the Navy reached a tipping point. So, what were these resentments? Well, it started with the discrimination against Indians in the naval services, and it abruptly developed into a nationalist consciousness and inspiration from Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. What began as a response to the discriminatory treatment by the Britishers within the Navy developed into one of the finest chapters of Indian independence. On 18th February, sailors on HMIS Talwar refused to perform their duties and started raising the slogans which subsequently led to the formation of Naval Central Strike Committee. What happened next? Instead of Union Jack, sailors hoisted red flag of Communist Party of India along with the flags of INC and Muslim League. They shouted the slogan Zingulab Sindabad, death to British imperialism. And slowly the Britishers started understanding that they are losing their hold over the Indian waters and the Indian people. The naval cadres, the sailors, refused to participate in operations in Indonesia and other parts. They refused to take orders from British. But unfortunately, the strike, this rating was not supported by any mainstream parties in India except the Communist Party. Great leaders like B.S. Vaidya and others rallied support for the sailors in Bombay. When everyone thought that this will be a movement which will be marked as a failure due to lack of support, but those people were bound to be disappointed because what Bombay witnessed in February 1946 was a red flag both in the waters and the land. What Bombay witnessed in a fine morning was a massive rally and a massive eruption of the students led by All India Students Federation. It was today, February 22, 1946. The movement reached a pivotal point. AISF, in collaboration with trade unions and civic organizations, orchestrated a citywide hartal in Bombay. The streets of Bombay was brought to a standstill by the students, laborers, and the ordinary citizens standing shoulder to shoulder, challenging the colonial authority with our navy comrades. There were massive clashes. There were instances of violence. The colonial police responded brutally against AISF cadres. Yet, the solidarity displayed by the masses underscored a burgeoning national consciousness, signaling the waning grip of a colonial rule. It will be surprising to find that Clement Attlee, the then UK Prime Minister, in his statement to the Parliament, said that it was the communists who were behind the Royal Indian Naval Mutiny. Well, it is a fact that it was the communist, both in the ship and in the yard, both in the water and the land, which who stood with the striking sailors. Despite the suppression of the uprising, its reverberations are profound. The collaboration between Royal Indian Navy sailors and AISF exemplifies the power of unified resistance. This alliance not only accelerated the momentum towards independence, but also cemented the role of student activism in India's liberation. Today, when we remember the Royal Indian Naval Mutiny, we salute the leaders including B.C. Dutt, P.J. Antony, B.K. Vaidya, and other martyrs who lost their life in the strike, who were killed by the colonial administration. Undoubtedly, this Royal Indian Naval Mutiny proved to be the final and a fatal blow on the British imperialism. It was a kind of battleship Potemkin moment for India. We cannot imagine the evolution of Indian independence without the Royal Indian Naval Mutiny. And when the sailors were desperately looking to the shores, when Congress and Muslim League backtracked, it was All India Students Federation and the Communist Party which mobilized to the people, which came with the masses to the streets of Bombay and Karachi in support of the sailors. And when the sailors, when the students, ordinary people, working class, middle class joined their hands together, the Union Jack was taken down and the tricolor was hoisted. And I repeat, the movement was supported only by AISF and the communists in India. It was backstabbed by the communal Hindutva fascist organizations, including Hindu Mahasabha and RSS. The people who led the Royal Indian Naval Mutiny were staunch communists. It included Comrade A.K. Hangal, Comrade P.J. Antony, Comrade B.S. Vaidya, and lot of other people who were inspired by the Bolshevik Revolution of 1917. Let us not forget this greatest epoch of the history. Thank you.